There comes a point in most people's lives when they feel sick over the amount of time they feel they're wasting. This happens when the voice of your potential becomes louder than your voice of reason. The time periods I'm talking about are not necessarily the ones where you're doing nothing. They can occur perfectly well in an environment where you're doing everything you feel you're supposed to. So why then does this feeling of guilt become so overwhelming? What's up, dude? Welcome to the video and welcome to the new year, because as of the time of recording, it is 2:52 a.m. on January 1st. So happy 2026 to everybody. I hope everybody has plans for the future that make you comfortable and confident going into the next chapter. Now let's back up for a second and talk about the voice of your potential becoming louder than your voice of reason, and what exactly I mean by that. The voice of your potential is an illogical and at times unreasonable part of your brain that tells you that there's more for you than this. This could be how much you make hourly at your job. This could be how much time you spend doing things you don't actually believe in. But primarily, this is that which you are most sick of. The voice of reason is that which keeps you on the ground, which is the best place to be most of the time and the worst place to be all of the time. When that voice of potential becomes louder than the voice of reason, you're forced to make a decision. You can act on it, or you can ignore it. And this is not an easy decision. Both sides come with upsides and downsides of their own, both predictable and completely unpredictable. It's not a permanent decision, but as I'm sure we all know, it's easy to make a decision and go back on it later. But here's the thing about these decisions. If you choose to ignore it, the next time you have to make this decision, and in my experience, you will have to make this decision every single day, the next time you have to make it, the decision becomes a little bit less heavy, almost as if it's shrinking. And then again, when you have to make this decision, which you will, it gets a little lighter, gets a little easier to pick that side. And that will continue to happen until you don't have to make the decision at all. Now this is interesting because the contrast to this decision of ignoring it is to act on it, which in my brain looks quite the opposite of ignore it. It starts off small. Starts off as a little voice, kind of just in the back of your head. It tells you that there's more for you, that this isn't the end goal, that this isn't all that you're meant for, whether that's a minimum wage job or school you don't think you need. And then you make that decision and you act on it. And once more, you have to make a decision you've already made. You'll continue to have to do this until you die, pretty much. That's my guess, anyway. You act on it again, and then you act on it again. Every time the decision appears to carry more weight. There's more to it. It becomes a decision that's not so black and white. There's depth to it now. As you try to rationalize an irrational thought, which is that you could be the best at something, or you could make money doing what you love, or that you're going to become the perfect dad and attend every single practice and game while maintaining a business and tending to your wife and your animals, your dogs, cats, whatever. Not impossible. Not impossible. People do it every day. Irrational? Absolutely. We are only human after all. For someone conflicted about the trajectory of their life, this question becomes incredibly daunting. So let's take our guy here. We're going to call him Dave. And Dave's voice of reason is telling him that he should become the successor to his dad's painting company. It's a logical decision. It makes great sense. His dad's already done the heavy lifting as far as starting the business goes. All he has to do is learn the labor and learn the ins and outs of running the company, and he's on track to have a successful and monetarily rewarding career. Unfortunately, Dave also wants to be a DJ. Not unfortunate because he wants to be a DJ, unfortunate because his dream of being a DJ doesn't quite line up with the more reasonable option for his life. Dave's conflicted, and reasonably so. This decision is not easy to make, and it seems he has to make it every single day. The reasonable part of him loves the idea of taking over his dad's painting business, for reasons already mentioned, which is that it's equitable, it's already successful, and he just has to learn the business. Seems easy enough. The voice of his potential, however, is offering him outcomes that are just as shiny, but in a different way. He knows that, and he's weighed the pros and cons. He can either become a well-off business owner working in trade, or he can become super famous, super cool, swaggy DJ guy. But the question isn't just about paint and turntables. For him, this is a question of dying underfulfilled or spending your life swimming upstream. But he doesn't have to make this decision today, right? He's not gonna become a DJ overnight, so he's gonna choose to ignore it. He's only ignoring it once, so there can't be much harm in that. A year may pass and he's forced to come back to the same decision, as his dream to be a DJ is, unfortunately for him, unrelenting. So now he has to make the decision again. Except this time, it's just a tiny bit lighter. He's going to ignore it again. His dad's business is doing well. He's learning it very well. He's got a good handle on the ins and outs of everything on the labor side. In fact, most of the jobs he does himself. Easy enough. A couple weeks go by, he has to make it again. Naturally, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. He ignores it again, and this time it's easier. And he doesn't realize that he's creating this problem for himself yet. And the unfortunate thing is, he probably never will. Because like I said before, as the answer to this question gets smaller and smaller, it becomes easier to ignore. And as it becomes easier to ignore, eventually you don't have to ignore it at all. So he ignores it again. Poor Dave. His aspirations of becoming the next Avicii are slowly getting crushed, and he doesn't even realize that he's doing it. Because of how easy he's made this question to ignore, it now seems unimportant, but I don't think it is. I suspect this is one of the most important decisions we will ever make throughout our entire lives. But I want to point out, this is not a loaded question. There's validity in both answers. I truly believe that. Unfortunately, that might sound crazy to people of the opposite belief. For example, if you have someone who's very focused on inheriting a business and making that grow, then the idea of dropping everything to go pursue something that appears completely illogical makes absolutely no sense and is almost completely unjustifiable because the odds are so slim, they might look at that person and laugh. And likewise, for the person who wants to do something where the odds are just so thin, they might look at the inheritor of a business and say they're wasting their potential. They're not using any of their creativity, and their life, therefore, is unsuccessful because they didn't chase their original dream. Because opposition looks like ignorance to people that don't believe in you. And this applies to both sections of people who find their answer. So back to Dave. Every time he was faced with the decision to either ignore or act on his decision, and he chose to ignore it, this dream became a little bit smaller. He didn't have to think about it so much. It started to sound illogical and it didn't make much sense. And at the end of the day, as he evolved and kind of came into his own life a little bit more, it just didn't seem wise and it didn't make much sense. But dreams and aspirations are so not black and white. As this dream became a little bit smaller, his dream to start a family and be a good dad became a little bit bigger. So every time one of these decisions was made, so too was one of these decisions. And so now, instead of ignoring his dream to become a DJ, he is instead acting on his dream to become a really good dad. Someone who can support a family. This is his new dream. Being a DJ was a silly thing from the past. That was high school Dave. He would never consider doing that now that he has a daughter on the way. But does that mean that this dream was stupid? Absolutely not. This dream was everything to him. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes life hits us in ways that we don't expect. And instead of him becoming a world-class DJ, he instead decided to become a world-class father. Dave's question didn't start with whether or not it was cooler to be a dad or a DJ. It started with him feeling like there was more for his life. So essentially what I'm getting at is we are forced to pick our dreams. And the timing at which you pick those dreams is everything. Because had he decided to put all the effort that he put into his family into DJing, there's a chance he would have made it as a DJ. How good that chance is depends on how good Dave is at DJing, which we still don't know. But the point of me saying all this is to suggest that your dreams will evolve. And it's not so much about the dream that you have or the voice of your potential. That will change. It will always change. Life happens, and we can't control what it does. Dave has a great life. And at the end of the day, he didn't have to become a DJ to have a great life. All he had to do was give his best effort to whatever his dream was. And that's my message to you. The only way to die underfulfilled is to not give your best effort to that which matters to you most. As far as I'm concerned, there's only two things to do. Figure out what that is and do it to the very best of your abilities. Do everything you can. It's very rare that there's nothing that you can do. And if you don't know what it is, then listen. The answer, I fully believe, is revealed to you little by little every single day. You just have to pay attention when it happens. I actually have a video about that I released probably a little over a week ago about being able to sit in silence and think and have things of that nature revealed to you. So if you wanted to, you could go watch that one. I think actually that it is a bit relevant to this conversation about realizing your potential, or the potential already being there and you just don't know what to do with it. You don't always have to have the logistics of your dream figured out before you feel like there's more for you. I believe we live in a world where anyone can have it, but the amount of work that it takes is likely extensive. And I think that's the way that you would want it to be. I see a bunch of people online who kind of blow up overnight, and in a few years they're gone. It's very rare that someone blows up overnight and it's actually a sustainable venture. It's just too fast. The reality of it, and this is what I believe, is that you want things to roll as slowly as possible. Every single day, just stacking another brick. And eventually, when you have enough bricks stacked, you will reach the point that you're looking to get to. But if you, instead of bricks, were using sand to build that foundation, you'd be limited, and eventually it would fall and it would just be unstable in general. Whether your dream is to be a successful parent or to be a Swedish supermodel, whatever it is, do it to the best of your ability. But make sure you're doing it, because the clock is ticking, and one day it will be too late. I know that's kind of a dark ending, but I think it's true. I think a lot of people have fears of laying in, hopefully not a hospital bed. I feel like that's probably the worst place to die. But I think everybody has some type of fear of being in that situation, using up their last breaths and thinking about all the things that they wish they had done. If only I had done this when I was 20, or if only I had done this when I was 30 or 45. The fact of the matter is that your dreams die when you let them. Your potential dies when you let it. So no matter what the embodiment of that potential is, chase it every day. Because one day, if you stop and become content with the things you want but do not have, it might be too late. Like I said, dark, but I think real. Anyway, I would like to thank you for your time. This channel is my dream. It's me working for my dream. So anyone who took the time to watch this video, it's very appreciated. I hope that it was thought-provoking or made you feel something or made you realize something, or even if it was annoying. I just hope it made you feel some type of way. But at the end of the day, I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time I decide to upload.